Everyone has a story to tell, and when it comes to matters of faith, your personal journey can be one of the most powerful tools you have to inspire, encourage, and connect with others. Sharing your personal faith story, often called a testimony, isn't about delivering a rehearsed speech or convincing someone to think exactly as you do. Instead, it's about authentically communicating how your beliefs have shaped your life, what you've experienced, and the hope or transformation you've found along the way. Whether you're preparing to share your story with a friend over coffee, a small group, or even a larger audience, there are clear steps you can follow to ensure that your message is both clear and compelling. First, it's important to understand why sharing your faith story matters. Human beings are wired for stories. We remember them, relate to them, and often see ourselves reflected in them. While facts and arguments can be persuasive, stories have the unique ability to touch the heart. Your personal story is unique to you. No one else has experienced your life exactly as you have. When you share openly and honestly, you invite others into your journey, and you provide a window into what faith can look like in real life. The first step in sharing your faith story clearly is to reflect deeply on your own journey. Take time to look back over your life and consider the key moments that have shaped your beliefs. What were the circumstances that led you to faith? Were there moments of struggle, doubt, or searching? How did you come to the point where your faith became real and personal? What changes have you seen in your life as a result? Often it helps to write these thoughts down, not as a script, but as a way to clarify your thinking and remember important details. Think about the before, during, and after of your story. What was your life like before you embraced your faith? This doesn't necessarily mean you were at rock bottom or in crisis. Sometimes the journey is subtle, marked by a gradual realization rather than a dramatic event. Still, it's helpful to pinpoint what was missing, what questions you were asking, or what challenges you were facing. Be honest about your doubts, fears, or misconceptions. Authenticity resonates far more than perfection. Next, consider the turning point. What happened that prompted you to explore faith more seriously? Was it a conversation with a friend, a personal loss, a moment of clarity, or simply a growing sense of curiosity? Describe this moment as clearly as you can. People connect with specific details and real emotions. If you encountered a particular idea, passage, or person that made a difference, share that. Explain how you came to a place of decision, whether it was a single moment or a gradual process. Then, reflect on what has changed since that time. How has your faith impacted your daily life, your relationships, your sense of purpose, or your outlook on the world? Be specific, but also be honest about the ongoing journey. Faith is rarely a straight line, and acknowledging continued struggles or questions can make your story more relatable and real. People appreciate vulnerability and the recognition that life is complex. Once you've reflected on your story, the next step is to consider your audience. Who will you be sharing with? What is their background? And what might they be interested in or concerned about? Tailoring your story doesn't mean changing the truth, but it does mean choosing details and language that will be most meaningful to those listening. If you're speaking to someone who has little or no religious background, avoid jargon or insider terms. Instead, use language that anyone can understand. If you're sharing with people who may have had negative experiences with faith communities, acknowledge that and be sensitive to their feelings. It's also important to remember that your story is not about proving a point or winning an argument. The goal is to share, not to preach. Approach your audience with humility and respect, recognizing that everyone is on their own journey. Be open to questions and don't be afraid to admit if you don't have all the answers. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is, "I don't know, but this is what I've experienced." When you begin to craft your story, keep it simple and focused. It can be tempting to include every detail, but clarity comes from honing in on the most significant moments and themes. Aim for a story that can be shared in 5 to 10 minutes. This doesn't mean you can't go deeper in conversation, but starting with a concise version allows for more interaction and questions. A helpful framework is to structure your story in 3 main parts: your life before faith, how you came to faith, and your life since. Within each section, focus on key experiences, emotions, and changes. Use concrete examples rather than generalities. For instance, instead of saying, "I felt lost," you might describe a specific time when you were searching for meaning or direction. As you write or think through your story, Pay attention to transitions. How did you move from one stage to the next? What were the key realizations or events that propelled you forward? These transitions help your listener follow your journey and understand the significance of each part. Practice telling your story out loud. This doesn't mean memorizing a script, but rather becoming comfortable with the flow of your narrative. As you practice, listen for places where you might clarify or simplify. Ask a trusted friend or mentor to listen and give feedback. Sometimes what makes sense in your head can sound confusing to someone else. Be open to suggestions and willing to make adjustments. When you share your story, pay attention to your tone and body language. Speak with warmth and authenticity, making eye contact and using natural gestures. Remember, you're inviting someone into your life, not delivering a lecture. Be yourself. People respond to sincerity. It's also helpful to be prepared for questions or reactions. Some people may be curious and want to know more, while others may be skeptical or even dismissive. Respond with grace and patience, remembering that your role is to share, not to convince. If someone asks a question you can't answer, it's okay to say, "That's a great question. I'm still learning too." Sometimes the best conversations happen when you admit you don't have it all figured out. Another important aspect of sharing your faith story is to listen well. Sharing isn't a one-way street. Be genuinely interested in the other person's perspective and experiences. Ask questions and show empathy. Often, the most meaningful connections happen when both people feel heard and respected. Don't underestimate the power of prayer or reflection before you share. Ask for wisdom, clarity, and the right words to say. Trust that your story matters and that even if it doesn't lead to immediate results, it can plant seeds that will grow over time. As you continue to share your story, you may find that it evolves. New experiences, challenges, and insights will shape your journey. Be willing to revisit and revise your narrative as needed. Your story is a living testimony, not a static script. It's also important to remember that your story is part of a larger story. For people of faith, personal transformation is often connected to a bigger narrative, whether that's the story of God's love, the teachings of a particular tradition, or the shared experiences of a community. As you share your journey, consider how it fits within this broader context. This can help listeners see that faith isn't just a personal preference, but something with deep roots and meaning. When appropriate, you may want to include elements of your faith tradition's story, such as key beliefs, practices, or historical events. Do this in a way that enhances your personal narrative rather than overshadowing it. For example, you might explain how a particular teaching or practice helped you during a difficult time, or how a community of faith supported you along the way. As you become more comfortable sharing your story, look for opportunities to do so in everyday life. This might mean having a conversation with a coworker, participating in a discussion group, or sharing online. Remember, you don't need a formal setting to make an impact. Often, the most meaningful exchanges happen in ordinary moments. Be mindful of timing and context. Not every situation is the right time to share your full story. Sometimes a brief comment or a word of encouragement is more appropriate. Pay attention to the cues of those around you and be sensitive to their openness and interest. It's also helpful to have a few different versions of your story prepared, a short version for casual conversations and a longer version for deeper discussions. This allows you to adapt to different situations and audiences. As you share, keep the focus on what you've experienced and learned, rather than what others should do or believe. Use I statements rather than you statements. For example, "I found hope in my faith during a difficult time," rather than, "You need to have faith to find hope." This approach is less confrontational and more invitational. Be prepared for a range of responses. Some people may be interested and want to know more, while others may be indifferent or even hostile. Don't take negative reactions personally. Remember, your role is to share your story with honesty and love, not to control the outcome. If someone expresses interest, be ready to go deeper. Offer to share more about your journey, answer questions, or connect them with resources or communities that have been helpful to you. Be patient and respectful of their process. It's also important to follow up after sharing your story. If someone expresses interest or asks questions, reach out to continue the conversation. Offer encouragement and support and be willing to walk alongside them on their own journey. Over time, You may find that sharing your story not only impacts others, but also deepens your own faith. Reflecting on your journey can help you recognize the ways you've grown, the challenges you've overcome, and the ongoing work of transformation in your life. Remember, your story is a gift. It has the power to inspire, encourage, and connect. By sharing it clearly and authentically, you can make a meaningful difference in the lives of others. Now, let's walk through some practical steps you can take to prepare and share your personal faith story effectively. Begin by setting aside time for reflection. Find a quiet place where you can think without distractions. Ask yourself the following questions. What was my life like before I embraced my faith? What were the key events, relationships, or questions that led me to explore faith more deeply? Was there a specific moment or a gradual process that led to my decision? How has my life changed since then? What challenges have I faced, and how has my faith helped me navigate them? Write down your thoughts in a journal or on your computer. Don't worry about grammar or structure at this stage, just get your ideas out. As you write, look for patterns or themes that emerge. Are there particular struggles or questions that stand out? Are there moments of clarity, peace, or transformation that you want to highlight? Once you have a rough draft, begin to organize your story into 3 main sections: before, during, and after. In the before section, describe your life prior to embracing your faith. Be honest about the challenges, doubts, or emptiness you experienced. In the during section, explain what prompted you to explore faith more seriously and how you came to your decision. In the after section, share how your life has changed, what you've learned, and how your faith continues to shape you. As you refine your story, focus on clarity and simplicity. Avoid jargon or insider language that may be confusing to those outside your faith tradition. Use concrete examples and specific details to make your story relatable and memorable. Practice telling your story out loud. This will help you become more comfortable and confident. As you practice, pay attention to your pacing, tone, and body language. Aim for a conversational style rather than a formal speech. Ask a trusted friend or mentor to listen to your story and provide feedback. Are there parts that are unclear or confusing? Are there places where you could be more concise or specific? Be open to constructive criticism and make adjustments as needed. When you're ready to share your story, look for natural opportunities in your everyday life. This might be during a conversation with a friend, a discussion at work, or a gathering with family. Be sensitive to the context and the openness of those around you. Start by listening. Ask questions and show genuine interest in the other person's life and experiences. Look for common ground or shared struggles. When the time feels right, share your story in a way that is appropriate for the situation. Be honest and vulnerable. Don't be afraid to share your struggles, doubts, or ongoing questions. People connect with authenticity, not perfection. Keep your story focused and concise. Aim for a version that can be shared in 5 to 10 minutes. If the person is interested, you can always go deeper. Be prepared for questions or reactions. Respond with grace and humility, and be willing to admit when you don't have all the answers. Follow up after the conversation. Offer encouragement, support, or additional resources if the person is interested. Be willing to continue the conversation and walk alongside them on their journey. Remember, sharing your faith story is not about convincing or converting others. It's about authentically sharing your journey and inviting others to consider their own. Trust that your story matters and that it can make a difference in ways you may never fully see. As you continue to share, reflect regularly on your journey. How has your story evolved? What new insights or experiences have shaped you? Be willing to revise and update your story as needed. Look for opportunities to share your story in different settings. This might include small groups, community events, or online platforms. Be open to new ways of connecting with others and sharing your journey. Above all, approach the process with humility, love, and respect. Recognize that everyone is on their own journey and that your role is simply to share, not to control the outcome. In summary, the steps to clearly share your personal faith story effectively include: 1. Reflect deeply on your own journey, identifying key moments and themes. 2. Organize your story into 3 main sections: before, during, and after. 3. Write down your story, focusing on clarity, simplicity, and authenticity. 4. Practice telling your story out loud and seek feedback from trusted friends or mentors. 5. Tailor your story to your audience, using language and examples that will resonate with them. 6. Look for natural opportunities to share your story in everyday life. 7. Listen well, ask questions, and show genuine interest in others. 8. Be honest and vulnerable, sharing both struggles and successes. 9. Keep your story focused and concise, aiming for a 5 to 10-minute version. 10. Be prepared for questions or reactions and respond with grace and humility. 11. Follow up after conversations, offering support and encouragement. 12. Reflect regularly on your journey and update your story as needed. 13. Look for opportunities to share in different settings and formats. 14. Approach the process with humility, love, and respect. By following these steps, you can share your personal faith story in a way that is clear, compelling, and impactful. Your story has the power to inspire, encourage, and connect. Trust that your journey matters, and that by sharing it, you can make a difference in the lives of others. As you move forward, remember that the most important thing is to be yourself. Speak from the heart, and let your story reflect the unique journey you've traveled. Whether your path has been marked by dramatic transformation or quiet growth, your experiences have value. By sharing them honestly and openly, you invite others to consider their own journey, and you offer hope and encouragement along the way. So take a deep breath, trust in your story, and begin to share. You never know whose life you might touch, or how your own life might be enriched in the process.